Hello everybody, welcome back to an episode of Red Dead Redemption Character Analysis. We're back here. I took a little bit of a break from doing character analysis just because I got really busy and I was I've been meaning to come around to doing it, kind of resuming the Red Dead character analysis. Then I really didn't get a chance to do it, and then just kind of weeks went by, and that's kind of how it goes. But I didn't really, be kind of slacking on doing the character analysis. But we're back here, looking to be more consistent with it. But I apologize that I took a little bit of a break from, it's been a little bit of the gap between the last character analysis and this one that we're doing today. So I apologize for that. But we're back, and today we're just continuing on with Red Dead 2 only characters, of course. I have a lot of good characters in Red Dead 2. There's a lot of interesting ones that I really like. They're good characters and they have a lot of depth in them. One of them being Lenny Summers, which is, we're going to be talking about him today. He's a very good character. He's a nice character. One of my favorite characters in the game. And there are a lot of other people's. He's a fan favorite, amongst others. So we're going to talk about Lenny, and yeah, he's a very interesting character. So we're going to get right into it. Of course, getting all my info from the Red Dead Wiki, great site. Always plentiful information and very easy for me to read. And just shout out to the Red Dead Wiki. It's a great site, and I always really appreciate it. It's very very organized site for me to read. So getting into his history, Lenny Summers was born in circa 1880, which means somewhere, which I learned. Both of his parents were former slaves. His family's life had been hard. Even before he was born, his mother was born in a cotton field and immediately confiscated by the overseer from her own mother. When the Civil War ended, the overseer continued harassing Lenny's grandmother, who eventually killed him with a knife and subsequently fled, narrowly avoiding a lynching. The girl never saw her mother again, but eventually met and married Mr. Summers, who would become Lenny's father. Mr. Summers was a dedicated man who could read and write. He taught Lenny everything he knew and also gave him a pocket watch that was previously given to him by his former owner, with slaves. It's a real shame that kind of stuff had to happen. But one night, his father was beaten to death by a few drunk men, whom Lenny killed in revenge. Of course, he mentions that in the actual story of Red Dead. He was forced to go on the run afterward, being only 15 years old at the time, and eventually joined the Vanderbilt gang while traversing in the Grizzlies in late 1898. Excuse me. It is known that Lenny fell in love with Jenny Kirk sometime before her death, and her loss hit him hard. Unfortunately, Lenny also had the pocket watch given to him by his father during the chaos of the failed ferry robbery. He lost it, during the whole Blackwater chaos. That's his history, very short history. That's unfortunate, kind of how his ancestors had to go through, also kind of stuff like that. Such a shame and very unfortunate. But the events of Red Dead Redemption 2 in the Coulter chapter, Lenny Summers is first seen in Outlaws from the West, during which he guards Coulter and awaits the arrival of Dutch Vanderlyn and Arthur Morgan, who went out scouting for supplies. A few days later, Lenny takes part in the assault of an O'Driscoll hideout, paired with Javier Escuela. Despite his prior appearances in these missions, Lenny first takes the spotlight during the robbery of a train owned by Leviticus Cornwall. Prior to the robbery, Dutch praises Lenny for his eagerness and readiness. When the explosives intended to bring the train to a stop fail to detonate, Lenny, Javier, and Arthur chase after the train and jump aboard. Although Javier falls off, Arthur and Lenny succeed, and the two fight their way to the train cars in an attempt to get the locomotive and stop the train. Or get to the locomotive. Excuse me. Once the train is stopped, the two jump off the train and onto the ground to fight the rest of the guards. They are overwhelmed, but fortunately the rest of the gang come in on horseback and take down the remaining adversaries. With the heat of the battle dying down, Dutch orders Lenny, Arthur, and Micah Bell to loot Cornwall's private car. Lenny is praised by the gang for his good work, although Micah still does not resist teasing him, of course. That's just how Micah is. And the following day, as the gang leaves Coulter and moves eastward, Micah and Lenny are sent ahead by Dutch to scout and make sure there's nothing to worry. And then moving on to the Horseshoe Overlook chapter. Shortly after arriving at Horseshoe Overlook, Lenny and Micah are sent by Susan Grimshaw to go scouting ahead for anything notable. The pair eventually end up in the town of Strawberry, where Micah drunkenly murders two O'Driscolls, is arrested and sentenced to be hanged. Lenny is almost lynched but barely escapes, riding back full speed to Horseshoe Overlook. Exhausted and out of breath, Lenny informs Dutch of the news, which is the mission you're seeing now, A Quiet Time, which we'll be getting into that a little bit later. Dutch then instructs Arthur to take Lenny to the local saloon in Valentine. Lenny and Arthur get highly intoxicated, and then during their midnight antics, they are pursued by deputies for drunken violence. Lenny, constantly vomiting, is immediately tackled by law enforcement, while Arthur is given an opportunity to escape. If Arthur, the player, fails to evade the deputies, he and Lenny will wake up in the next morning in the town jail, where the deputy offers to let them go scot-free if they pay bail. Lenny obligates and pays the bail, and returning to Horseshoe Overlook while Arthur remains in Valentine. And that's the mission you guys are seeing right now, is the gameplay, because just A Quiet Time, that's what the mission is called. A Quiet Time is such a classic with the Lenny and Arthur calling out for Lenny. It's one of the most classic missions, and a lot of memes are made out of it. I'm sure you guys have seen it in the Red Dead Redemption 2 community. But it's just such a classic mission and fun mission to play between Arthur and Lenny, kind of bonding, and it's really fun. And yeah, the gameplay kind of here speaks for itself, but it's really funny. It's a funny mission, and it's a real classic. Following mission, Lenny spends most of his time in Horseshoe Overlook and can often be seen reading the daily paper or standing guard outside camp. Lenny's pretty educated, and I'm sure he'll get into that, but he's a very educated man. He's wise, and he's one of the youngest characters in the Vanderlyn gang, I believe, so he's pretty wise beyond his years. I'm sure that the wiki will kind of touch up on that, but he is very intelligent for his age, and I know he's younger. I think he's like 19, 18 or 19 at the time of the story, but he's very wise and intelligent. But I'm sure the wiki will touch up on that, and I'll talk about it should it will touch up on it. But moving on here to the Clements Point chapter, as the gang moves southward to the state of Lemoyne, Lenny grows increasingly concerned with the prejudice against his race in the area. At some point after arriving, Lenny explores roads and speaks to the black community there, from whom he learns that an ex-Confederate militia known as the Lemoyne Raiders. He learns that this faction is camped in an old plantation house called Shady Belle, where they're stockpiling hordes of expensive weapons and explosives, which they plan to sell abroad. Lenny convinces Arthur to ride out to the ambush Shady Belle, and steal some weapons. After killing the Lemoyne Raiders occupying the plantation, they steal the stash of weapons and place them on a wagon and then ride back to camp. The pair are ambushed after fleeing the place, but they fight off the attackers, and it's a good, cool mission. Another cool mission with Lenny, of course. Another one of my favorite missions, especially because you get the bolt action rifle, one of my favorite guns in the Red Dead game. But soon afterwards, Bill Williamson and Karen Jones approach Lenny and Arthur, planning to rob the bank in Valentine now that the heat has died down. The robbery is successful, and although lawmen begin to close in, the four gang members manage to fight their way out and escape the law, taking with them several $1,000s, so this is a pretty good take. By the end of the chapter, Lenny joins most of the gang in the assault against Braithwaite Manor, an effort to find the kidnapped Jack Marston. The day following the massive shootout, Pinkerton agents Milton and Ross discover the gang's camp. After a tense standoff, the two leave. The gang agrees to move camps to Shady Belle, which Lenny suggested. It's a good house. Soon after arriving in Saint Denis and retrieve Jack, Dutchin is invited by the gala by Angelo Bronte. Dutch, Jose, Arthur, and Bill travel via stagecoach, which is driven by Lenny, to the gala, which is taking place at Mayor Henry Lemie's residence. When the four leave the party, Lenny drives back to the camp and in the stagecoach. During the gala, Bronte tips off Dutch about the trolley station at Victory Street, which supposedly has hordes of cash. Lenny and Dutch meet Arthur at an alleyway where they prepare to rob the station. However, the heist proves to be a setup, and at the station's vault contains a paltry sum, and numerous policemen pour from the streets of Saint Denis, forcing the trio to shoot their way out of the city. Lenny leads most of the escape and is later praised for his prowess. He was good in that mission. He praised them and stuff like that. Of course, it was a setup. Lenny also appears in a companion activity in Chapter 4, in which he and Arthur rob a stagecoach. Lenny originally wishes to go off alone, but after finding a lead, but Arthur insists that he should accompany him. The robbery turns out to be a setup, another one. However, U.S. Marshals ambush them. Despite this, the pair manage to follow through with the heist. At the end of the mission, Lenny is warned by Arthur to be careful of leads that come from the stagecoach company, as there are often used as setups. Lenny is also involved in the assault on Angelo Bronte's mansion in a quest for revenge led by Dutch. The gang manages to kidnap Bronte, carrying him out to the back of the boat. As the gang rows for Shady Belle, Dutch drowns Bronte in a fit of rage. A short while later, Lenny participates in what Dutch and Hosea believed would be the gang's last score, the robbery of the Lemoyne National Bank. During the heist, which goes horribly awry, Lenny, Arthur, and the rest of the gang try to escape the bank via the rooftops. During their escape, Lenny is gunned down by two Pinkerton riflemen, immediately dying. Arthur is distraught by Lenny's death, but neither he nor the rest of the gang have any time to mourn. And unfortunately, that's how Lenny dies. He died, unfortunately, gunned down, and it's just a real shame. He had so much potential as a character, and he was young, and he died too young. He just had so much more life left to live, and it was just such a shame to see him die like that. It was sad. He just had such potential as a character, kind of further with the gang and everything. And it was just a real shame to see him die like that. And he was a beloved character, and a lot of people were kind of outraged, kind of by how he died, and like just kind of saying he died too soon in the story. And Lenny just could have had so much potential, and it was a real shame to see him die like that. But unfortunately, Lenny died, and that's how his character ends. It's just so sad. It's just a sad moment in the story, and that's kind of where the story starts to fall anyway. So Just adds on to it. Later on, Sadie Adler mentions that that she and the remaining gang managed to get Lenny's body out of Sanity by robbing the local morgue, and eventually buried both Lenny and Hosea, who also died during the robbery, together in Blue Water Marsh, which is real nice. They were able to get his body and bury it peacefully next to Hosea. And yeah, that's pretty much wraps up Lenny's character analysis. I'm going to go through some extra stuff here, kind of that the wiki usually has. Sometimes, depending on how long the character analysis is, I'll go over kind of the extras that the wiki has. So Lenny's personality. Lenny is shown to be an intelligent, fun-loving young man. He is also shown to be very competent and effective in many situations, kind of like I was mentioning earlier with his intelligence, so I knew we'd touch up on that later. With Hosea and Arthur particularly viewing him as one of the gang's best men. Like most members, he is very loyal to the Vanderlyn gang and considers them a family. Out of everyone at camp, he appears to have the most educated, to be the most educated, like I was saying. This is likely due to his upbringing, which, when compared to others in the gang, was more reasonably decent. He shows a confident and cocky attitude, replying with, "Of course I'm ready," when Javier asks if he's ready for the train robbery. Um, and he isn't afraid to get his hands dirty. On many occasions, he leads most of the escape during the Saint Denis trolley station robbery and later in the bank robbery, showing his confidence but has ultimately cost him his life. And in the latter occasion, when playing poker and Five Finger Fillet at camp, he playfully teases Arthur about being slow due to his older age. Despite him being part of an ethnic minority, Lenny displays no real care of what others think, perhaps because the gang as a whole live an outcast lifestyle and he can all be considered outcasts from society as a result. Sometimes satirically compares himself to common black stereotypes. In a conversation with Sean McGuire, Lenny states he's uncertain of who to hate more, the slaves who oppressed his ancestors or the general white populace for antagonizing him because of the recent Emancipation Proclamation, which kind of dates back, it's really dating itself to when the game was set. Yeah, that's interesting. And then kind of going a little bit more extra into his appearance. Lenny's usual attire consists of his pinstripe button-white shirt over a red union suit and braces. He has braces like accompanied with black trousers and boots and horseshoe overlook. He normally wears a dark blue vest and silver jacket on top of this, sometimes with a bandana around his neck. Some of this shows in the gameplay you're seeing right now, like the bandana and stuff. During the gang stay at Coulter, Summers is seen wearing a blue coat with a stripy scarf and gray trousers, accompanied by a brown, wide brim hat. When at camp, Lenny occasionally wears a gray straitjacket with black and white checkered vest underneath. He wears a similar outfit during the Saint Denis bank robbery, along with a red tie, black gloves, and black bowler hat with a red band. And that kind of wraps up some of the extra stuff here in the wiki for Lenny. So Lenny's a very interesting character. He dresses smart too, as long as he is smart, but he also dresses smart. I guess the same could be said about Dutch and other members of the gang, but Lenny dresses pretty smart. But yeah, that'll pretty much do it for today's character analysis. Yeah, so Lenny, very interesting character. It's unfortunate, kind of how he had to die like that. He just could add so much more potential to the story. Unfortunately, that's how it goes. Rip to Lenny. One of Red Dead's, at least Red Dead 2, Red Dead's beloved characters. A fan favorite, certainly, kind of like I was saying before, but fortunate. But yeah, that'll pretty much do it for today's character analysis. Like I said, sorry we kind of took a little bit of a gap between this one and the last one, but I'll be more trying to be more consistent with character analysis. We'll be wrapping up the Red Dead pretty soon. We'll be moving on to the next game, but there's a couple more Red Dead 2 characters I would like to do, just because there's just so much vast characters, especially in Red Dead 2, and more interesting characters. So I'm trying to make sure I get all the characters I wanted to do, and because there's so much interesting characters, kind of stuff like that. So I'll be doing some more Red Dead 2 characters, and we'll be moving on. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, as always, leave a comment down below. Comment down below what you think of Lenny, if he's your favorite character, why you like him, if you don't like him, why not, kind of all that stuff. Comment that down below. Let's discuss it. Of course, I'm excited to see kind of you guys' thoughts on Lenny, especially since I like him as a character. So, and I know a lot of other people do. So, leave a comment down below what you think of Lenny. So, yeah. With all that being said, make sure to subscribe for more content, like the video, all good stuff. Discord, Twitch, Instagram. Links in the description. There'll be in a channel. Our annual channel review for 2025 coming up in the next few weeks here. I just gotta get it planned out, along with some other announcements in that video. So stay tuned for that. Big things coming, and yeah, that'll be within the next few weeks. But yeah, for now, with all that being said, I will see you guys in the next video.